Okay, so we are back and we have achieved absolute, complete, and total success. I haven't taken any measurements. I haven't, but I'm going to go through and show you what it is that I just did. I'm going to put this barrel to act thing up out of the way here. I'll back the camera up enough that you can see it, I guess, just so that you see that everything is still right here. Here's the action. It's in my little vise thing. I'm just getting it out of the way. So let me explain what I did. And I didn't understand. I'm not guessing here. I got exactly the results that I expected. Exactly. Because when I take a case this size and I put in the amount of N130 that I put in, the results are to be expected. And it doesn't matter that it is a 22 caliber bullet or a 6mm bullet, because bore friction doesn't really even play into the equation. I wish more people who would, people come on the inner tube and they're like, oh, I got these unexplained pressure spikes and I got this happening, and people are like, well, clean your bore, use ISO, go in there and check this and that and the other. It might be that tight bore. These barrels are known for having a tight bore, or a dirty bore. Dirty bore will spike pressures up 100 feet per second, on and on and on and on and on, and I call BS, because in controlled testing, simply none of that is true. Right now, today, we have taken, let me just go through the sequence. Bear with me here. Bone stock 220 Russian case. Throw a powder of, or a primer of unknown origin in there, and I can say that with total safety. I actually know what they are, but that's not the thing. I'm not here to make any recommendations for any kind of anything. I'm here to share what I do and why I do it, and to stress continually the safety aspects of it. This is safe, whichever small, in this case it's a bench rest primer. Wouldn't have to be a bench rest primer, just a small rifle primer. And it can be any one of many small rifle primers. Wow, that was weird. Okay. I lodged a primer on the rim of the, doesn't matter. But, just another example of how things can go awry on camera. Okay, so this is actually a very good tool. If I could find more of them, I would buy 20 of them, but I can't. They're out of existence, they're gone, they were a flash in the pan. It's one of my favorite primer tools for what we're doing, incidental stuff. Great tool, wicked fast. So, I now have a primed 220 Russian case. And I hope, I might have to set that thing on manual, but I hope it can keep up and follow along here. Primed 220 Russian case. I go over to my little Harrell powder thrower here. And it is throwing 26.6 grains of Vitefuri. I can't speak Finn. I'm married to a 100% Finn, and I know a lot of them, but I can't do Finn. 130. A primer and 26.6 grains of Vitefuri 130, and you just saw me load it in there quickly. No drop tube, no funky business, and it is full. Yep, you can see it in there. Come on, focus on something big. I know I'm just fooling the camera. I'm just trying to, it's a great camera. There's just so many things that I could do. Anyway, it's full clear to here. It's essentially full to a similar place as I did the other day with the 6x47 cases made from 6.5x47 cases. Well, in that case I used Clay's shotgun powder and I filled it clear to the top. and then put a little piece of wadding on top of it. Just a tiny little piece of paper towel that weighs less, well, just a piece of paper towel the size of, slightly bigger than my thumbnail. The end of something that'll roll up like a pea and fit into 6mm. In this case we're using a bullet, and I had to get thoroughly scabrous here. I just happen to have relics and antiques and stuff from all time frames. This, for those of you that have never seen this system, is called an arbor press. It's for use with hand dies. This is an antique and ancient 22 BR Remington. Now, those of you that want to research this or know can do so, but it's marked, it's an L.E. Wilson die, marked 22 BR Remington. If I set a case on this little stand that I have all kinds of things of, and if I place a bullet up in here and I hold it most assiduously, I can get it to come down, and there's a little bit of room. There we got it. That's how much the bullet is going to seat. There's no alignment here, there's no fancy business. But there, the bullet is now seated. Now we have just loaded a 220 Russian case with a 64 grain old bullet that I'm never going to use. See, when you start doing this kind of stuff, or for anything like me, you just try everything. You don't really have any parameters. I had built 6 BRs in every barrel twist available, only to find out that there's only 2 twists that are useful. A 14 twist with light bullets for short range bench rest, and a tight twist for everything else, and specifically for big 108 grains. But this is something that you don't see every day. This is a 6 PPC. But here's what we've done. Again, to recap, 26.6 grains of N130 with a 64 grain bullet. It's filled up all the way to here. It's crush fit in this gun. Now, because I'm safety like that, I set the first one low. I set the first one at less than. Come on. Come on, camera. I'm going to have to set up a focal length here. Okay, I'm going to manual, and I'm going to dial this thing in until it's legible. If I forget and go in and out of focus, then pardon-moi. All I care about is getting the information out there. So this is 24.5 grains, and it blew out kind of okay. It blew out in a usable fashion. If I couldn't get any better than that, I can say that that's a usable case. The neck is beautifully ironed out. The neck is popped out. There's no tight spots. It's got, to my practiced eye, having done this many, many, many times, there's still a tiny bit. Well, I can show you what it is. The mouth of the case is, I'm going to say 3 or 4 thou smaller than the main part of the case. The mouth of the neck, the main neck measures 266 and wants to be 0.5, 266, and the very mouth, if I can get here, I'm going to be able to get some dimensions, 263. And it's not perfectly round, but it's good. Hey, I found a wide spot there where, well, I dropped this thing, so it's got a little ding in it too. Boy, it's straighter maybe than I thought. I'm getting readings around. So, that aside, that's just, I just ejected it and it fell, and I'm an idiot. So, I ramped it up. I filled it clear up. That was 24.5. I put 2 more grains in. I went all the way up to 26.6 and achieved nirvana. This is a perfectly fire-formed case. If I can get the camera just right, hopefully we can see that it even has tiny, not striations, but it has tiny chamber marks. These will disappear shortly, but I cut all of my chambers. I never touch the inside of them with anything. They are raw cut, and I go to town. And they smooth out shortly, but right at the beginning with a brand new chamber, it always shows just a tiny bit, and I can see it. It's minuscule. There's almost a part of a line around it. That means that shoulder slapped, and it actually slapped and came back. It popped. Those corners are virtually square. This is not a finished case, but that's a case that you could take to a match. That's a good case. That is a great 6 ppc case right there. And it goes back in the gun, and you could just take that to a match. Couple more pops on that case, and you're going to really have something. So I'm excited about this. This is a perfect success. A full case, a full 220 Russian case, 26 grounds, 26 grains. This extemporaneous thing bites me over and over. Vita Vuri N130. You can do a lot of cases with an 8-pounder at 26 grains per case. That's me trying to be funny. Sometimes it's so much better in my head than it is in real life. So we write on this one 26.6, because that's about the most. Now I could get more in here. I may choose, because I'm pretty anal, I may choose to put a drop tube on here, and I can easily get another full grain into this, and I can sharpen those corners. I mean, I can pop this thing out to where it is match worthy. The primer, in case anybody is interested, is some of you might be able to blow that up on your screens and see. Very mild, no flattening, no anything. That's a mild load. I would put $50 that I could go out. It's pitch dark outside, and there's people sleeping up in the other house, and so. But I would bet you I could, well, without even thinking about it, I haven't even passed this over my brain yet, but I'm going to say that's going about 32. I'm going to say it's right around 3,200. Because that's a function of, and that bullet's going to obturate up some. It might seal in that bore okay. It'll be funny when I'm out. I'm not going to go fireform a bunch more tonight because I want to go do other stuff. The night is still young. It's only 10 o'clock. So, and my daughter's over here. And again, none of this is stuff that you care about. But we have achieved success. So I had to cobble together an old BR die. But for what we're doing, it's going to be fine. All we're doing is getting a bullet seated firmly, and neck tension doesn't matter. We're going to go through all of that. We're going to show you testing done on the chronograph, on the Ailer 43, if that's what we do. Strain gauge, we can go as far as you want. You want to test pressures? We got it. I've got a couple of Ailer setups. It's really not worth it, and we've gone through it, and it's incredibly boring to do that kind of testing. But I can just say from experience that this is going to be a very good fireforming load. It's going to get rid of some old bullets that I don't really have much use for. It's going to pop these cases out nicely, and I am very excited to finally do what I'm calling Jackie's method, and I'm going to make this work. I am going to turn some wicked cases. But first I got to go out and with my glove and on in the daylight, just in case I don't hit a deer or something, point this thing down range. I did still fire it naked, just like I do the other. Just held it and pink, and bada bing bada boom, out pops this beautiful 6 ppc case. All we have to do now is turn it, because now if I put a 6mm bullet in there and I try to put it in this gun, it won't fit. And since there's little time on this video, I'm going to branch out into something. I have had people ask me in the past, why turn next? Why go to all of that heartache? Why, you know, what's the big deal? And it is a big deal. In fact, one of the ways that you can make a factory gun shoot better is to make thicker necks so that you can get less diametric clearance in the neck. The reason it's a big deal is because when you drop that 400 to 600 pound hammer on the back of this thing and you hammer it into the bore, a lot of crap happens. That's a pretty light little thing. You lay it on the ground and drop 600 pounds on it, it just flattens it. So you hit it on the back, driving it into the lands. The engraving process is 400 to 600 pounds on the back of it. Here's the case. And inside the case is a bullet. When that hammer drops, the bullet tries to swell a little bit. And it does probably swell. If I were to throw a number out there, it probably swells 1,000 just under pressure. And the lands of the rifling are way up here somewhere. This neck pops open to act as a gasket to keep gas from flowing out. If you get, if you're attentive, you're going to see that there's always a certain amount of charring, a certain amount of carbon, a certain amount of blackness down the outside of a neck on a cartridge case before it seals. There's a certain amount of leakage. There's a timing thing. The neck is opening, gas starts to leak, it's built, bam, it slaps out. And you can learn a lot about the way the gun shoots by reading these. In some cases, you know, traditionally the perfect thing that you're looking for in BR back in the day was for scallops around the neck. And a lot of times they'd be down here. And there's a reason for that. It has to do with the rifling, it has to do with the way it opens up and the way it leaks and whatever. But the primary reason for fitted necks is because the neck can then act as a guiding means for the back of this bullet. As it's being hammered into the bore, however much clearance you've got, let's just draw another little picture here. If you have a factory neck, and that means this is the case, here's the bullet, and your factory neck, you might even have decent clearances here, decent clearance, but then you got this big old fatty factory neck in your gun before it goes down to the riflings. When this opens up now, however much room is in that neck, let's say common on factory guns is that there's 10 to 12 thousandths of total clearance in here. That's, you know, there's 4 to 6 thousandths of clearance on the side of this bullet. That means that bullet can rotate. Let me back up. Let me make a statement of fact. That means the bullet will rotate to one side or the other. It doesn't, when you drop 600 pounds on this, it does not pop out, and the bullet does not just hang there in the middle, la la la, and then head down the bore straight. No, it gets slammed by the hammer against one side. Consequently, that barrel starts down the bore with something called in-bore yaw. Now, and this being the line of the bore, that bullet starts down the bore with its nose, because it's yawed when it engraves, because it's crooked when it engraves, that nose is already doing this in the barrel. A few things happen then. You get uneven base pressure. If that bullet's cocked enough when it leaves, it'll actually leak out the side that's opposite where the nose is pointed. Draw pictures, think about this, and remember, tight necks, fitted necks, have their origination in and have their use in acting as a bushing to start your bullets straight into the rifling lands. It's hyper important. Now the question of whether it's more important with big long VLD bullets or with the short, I contend that it's even more important with the big long VLD bullets with their tremendous lever arms out here. Just the fact that you've got this long bullet, you know, a short little stubby thing is harder to move because your leverage, I'm not going to get into leverage moments and moment arms and all that kind of thing. I'm just saying that if it's trying to rotate around its center, you put pressure on here, this little short flat bullet versus this big long one. So, and then you picture this big long one coming down the bore. And when it pops out, things happen. And we could talk about that, but it's not, I don't know that much about it. I own McCoy's books, or book, and I own every ballistic text that I can, and I make an attempt at understanding them. But I'm more about real world terminology, real world what happens, what works. Oddly enough, Harold Vaughn had enough material for 3 more books when he passed, over and above rifle accuracy facts, but writing books is hard. He did a bunch of testing where he proved that excessive yaw, or the nutation generated by excess, it's really not, forget what I just said, that orbital tip movement that comes from excessive yaw, no matter how much, you could have 10, 12, 15 thousandths of clearance, so that tip's really wobbling, doesn't do anything to the BC. So don't think that you're going to get some magic with the fitted neck as far as increasing your ballistic coefficient. It's not. The physics don't work. But it will give you better accuracy, because a bullet, even a perfectly balanced bullet, still has more weight concentrated here than here. You start throwing that around like this, and it throws some, again, I just keep it in simple terms, it throws some eccentricity into the system. So you're trying to get that bullet to engrave straight, and the engravure procedure is violent. I'm going to tell you this because there's still enough winter left. Some of you maybe will watch this in time. Take one of your favorite guns out before spring melts all the snowbanks, and especially if you get a nice dry powder snow, find yourself a snowbank that's 2 or 3 feet high and 10, 12 feet long, just to be safe, and fire your gun into the end of it. Then when the snow melts in the spring, go out and pick up your bullets off the ground. They will be completely undamaged. They will look brand new. And you'll get to see the burn marks around the base of the bullet, the engraving marks. You're going to take measurements. You can learn a lot of interesting things by picking up these undamaged, pristine, fired bullets. And firing bullets into a snowbank is just one of those things that, and it can be pretty soft powder snow. Granted, different snow is going to stop bullets differently, but I've fired some pretty big guns into some pretty soft powder and recovered the bullets in the spring and learned a lot from those bullets. If the gun, and I did this, I've got the bullets here somewhere. I fired some long VLD bullets in a factory gun that had a lot of room. And what you'll see on the bullets is that the engraving on one side is markedly longer than it is on the other. You can see visually that that bullet went down the bore like this. So hopefully there was some useful information in there for someone.